I was told I was too old at 39 to move to Australia. 2 years later, I became a permanent resident with a 190 subclass visa. Here's the exam points breakdown, the visa subclass, and the one decision that changed everything. If you're inching closer to 40 and think the door's closed on your dream of moving down under, this video is for you. And this is how I did it.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Tony from the Totally Tony channel. An Italian Canadian living here in Sydney since November 2024, and this is my second video ever on YouTube. I had one about a nose job 3 years ago. If you want to go look at it, go for it. It's very bad, but I've had this video planned for the longest time, and today I want to share with you my journey on how I became a permanent resident of Australia at 40 years old, all the steps that I had to take, all the fees, the points, the system, what happened in between, all of it, so you can have an idea. And in case you're thinking about it, if you getting closer to 40, or you're scared, or you don't know what to do, this could be a video that could be useful for you. And we're going to talk specifically about the 190 state-sponsored skilled nominated visa. Basically it's state sponsoring you based on your skills and occupation and experience and everything else. So and before we jump into that, just a quick disclaimer: I'm not an immigration agent. I don't work for an immigration agency or company. This is just my personal story of what happened. Basically, yeah, the step to step, and everything that happened to me. So if you like this video, please like it. Please comment if you have any comments. I want to know more about it. Subscribe so you can help me with thinking about more videos. I have a lot of ideas, so hopefully once every week or every 2 weeks I'll be able to post more videos about Australia, about myself and professional life and everything. So let's jump right into it. Look guys, I really had I fell in love with this country in 2004. That was my first time that I visited here. I was 21, I think. I visited Perth, where I had some family there, some cousins. I traveled with my grandparents and some other relatives for a month, and I really, really, really loved. Immediately since I got there, that I really, really wanted to live there. I knew it since I got there. The first minute, really, just off the airport, there was just the air was different. There was that worry-free attitude amongst people. The beaches were amazing. Of course, the weather was amazing. It was December 2004. If you remember that tsunami that happened in Indonesia, in Thailand. That was that year. So that's what I remember very well, unfortunately. So I really, really loved it. So between 2004 and then 2010, I kind of finished my studies. I was living in Rome and then in Italy. And then I took a job in Buenos Aires, Argentina, where I have some other family there, first cousin, second cousin actually, and some other relatives. So I went there, had a great time for almost 3 years. It was fantastic. I speak like an Argentinian, and then in 2010 I decided to apply for the working holiday visa, which is that visa that you kind of get for 1 year, and you do some work, you do some travel, and then if you can renew it, if you do 88 days of farm work. Now I think it's a bit different, but back in the days in 2010, you had to do some farm work very, very far away from the big cities. Yeah, so picking up fruits or cattle, or just working in the pub in the middle of nowhere. Uh, Picking bananas from banana trees was that's very dangerous actually. So yeah, that's what I did for a year. I worked a bit, and then um, I just decided not to do the 88 days. I don't think that was my, you know, uh, route at that time of my life. And so I decided to go back to Buenos Aires for a bit, and then eventually moved back to Canada, where I started to work for IATA, like I said, in the aviation industry. And so for the next decade, really, it was just that. Was just working. I had a great career at IATA. I hated the winters, of course. Montreal, they're very cold, and I really, really thought that my dream to move to Australia was dead. The rules were getting stricter. The I spoke with multiple immigration agents that basically told me that, look, you're kind of skilled, but it's not the skills that Australia needs at the moment. I didn't have that much experience in terms of, working experience, let's say. There was an occupation on the lists that I was looking, thoroughly every quarter or every 6 months, because they update those lists all the time. So I really thought that my dream was over, basically. Some immigration agents even told me to go back to school and basically to apply for a student visa, and so leaving everything behind, my career and everything, just go, to come here and study, and then working 20 hours a week, and then hoping like in my 30s, you know what I mean? So it wasn't really something that I wanted to do. So because I wasn't going to start from zero again. I had it pretty nice in Canada. So yeah, to me it was just moving permanently. That was what I wanted. So yeah, things weren't looking up for me at that stage. But then in 2020, 2021, the world changed. We had the COVID pandemic, and that's where the borders were shut, and things were complicated. And in 2021, I started to think about, okay, maybe countries like Canada, like Australia, and other countries that rely heavily on immigration, for example, the UK. I thought, well, maybe, when they start to reopen the borders, eventually they will need to, um, get a higher intake of migrants, or open up the lists, I thought. So again, very, very high level was my knowledge about the laws and everything. So I started to look at some Facebook groups. I think there was like Italian experts, or in Canadian experts as well, on Facebook, and I started to contact an agent, an immigration agent based in Perth. They seemed to be very, very good. So I had my first call with Eleonora in December 2021, and from the moment that we spoke on the phone, I understood that she knew what she was talking about. That yes, she agreed that the government would, eventually just open up the leases, and to provide more numbers to the states. And so there was an opportunity, and because I was already, I had many, many years of expertise and experience and skills in what I was doing in the industry as a sales and marketing manager. So we decided to land on the 190 state-sponsored skill visa, which again is a points-based permanent visa, whereas a specific state sponsors you because your skills are in demand, basically, from the list of occupation that that state owns. So you need a minimum of 65 points to apply for that visa. And we calculated the points with the agent, and I reached 85. So I'm going to put the full breakdown here, or maybe here. Not sure where. But yeah, look, what I had is really, I'm going to read it here. On the computer, I had 25 points for my age. I was 39 at the time. I had 20 points for superior English. Um, and this was a bit tricky because as a Canadian citizen, you don't need to pass an English exam. I think Canadians, Americans, US citizens, um, Irish and UK British people, they don't have to sit an exam, but then you get 0 points. So I really wanted to rack up points, as many as I could. So I decided to take the test, and I wanted to get the maximum points, which is 20. And I did a certain PTE test, not the IELTS. I think I did an IELTS like, I don't know, 20 years ago for some course, something that I had to do. And I found it very, very hard, especially because it's sitting there with so many people in a room, and there is noise all the time. People have to go to the toilet and back. So you kind of get distracted. Whereas a PTE for me was just alone, myself in a room with a computer. It was for, of course, exercises, reading, writing, listening, and speaking, and I was able to get 20 points at that. So, and then I had 15 points for my overseas work experience, which they were all over 10 years at that time. And then 15 points of recognized bachelor's degree. So if you have a university degree, that counts, but it has to be recognized. And then I had 5 points for my partner skills. Shout out to Pablo. Thank you so much. And 5 points for the state nomination. So that gives you 95 points. So the total was 85. Wasn't that really the hardest part? The hardest part was to overcome a skills assessment, which is a formal evaluation of your qualifications and experience against the Australian standards for that occupation that you're applying for. So we had to lodge an expression of interest for that skill assessment, and it came back positive, guys. I could not believe it because that was really, really tough. It took us weeks and weeks of preparing, going through wording, gathering documents, ask my employer to or my boss to sign a document certifying that I was actually doing those jobs or those duties rather for my job. So yeah, that was came back positive, so we could use that skill assessment to submit then an expression of interest to the New South Wales state here in Australia. So we did that, and then we were invited to apply for nomination within 3 days. So basically, what happened is that you lodge your EOI, your expression of interest, and then you basically are in a pool of candidates. With everybody's got different points or same points, different occupation. Selected, of course, some accountants, journalism, plumber, whatever, any kind of occupation that the state would need. And then after we were invited to apply for the nomination within 3 days, and then we got sponsored one day after that. So we lodged our nomination. We got sponsored after one day, guys. My partner Pablo and I think we were in Japan on a vacation, some holidays that we took, and it was November 2022. So when that invitation came through, so we were so happy. We received an email from the agent, and if you want to know the name of the agent, if you're curious, just leave a comment down below. I'll provide you the name of the agency. Um, Phenomenal. And I think now they also they grew so much. They also have agents speaking in Spanish. I think there were Hindi, Vietnamese, Mandarin, Arabic, Italian, of course. So yeah. Anyway, so we received that, and then when we received the nomination from the state, it's where we lodged visa the permanent residency visa to the federal government. So we take the nomination and then we applied. And that was November 2022. So well, we applied actually in December, right before Christmas. We got the nomination in November, and then we applied in December 2022, right before Christmas. So the whole process wasn't cheap. And so after we submitted everything, we just waited, and the government website provides some high level um, timeline or time frame for each visas they're applying for, and that changes constantly, so it's not very reliable. So for example, at some point it would say, oh, 6 months, and then it would change to 8 months, and it would change to 14 months, and then going back to 12 months. So and at that time, you remember, guys, we're just coming out from COVID, and there were priority occupations. So anything medical or health related, they have priorities. Also, teaching, I think, was prioritized. So we had to wait longer. And so we waited, and then it just became another obsession. When is it going to come through? I mean, did we submitted and something that it's missing, some missing documents, missing information, because they don't tell you, guys. They tell you, but then it just can take months and months. So the application was there. It was a strong application, but we had to wait. And yeah, so until January 2024. It was the 10th of January 2024 when we got notified by the agent that we received the grant letter. So that's where we became permanent residents. I think I'm going to put a photo up here so you know how it looks. We were super, super happy, Pablo and I. We weren't together at that moment, but we video called each other, and it was pretty emotional because it took a long time. And we were basically, I was 40, I was 41, 40, and he was 45. Yeah, so it was just now or never, basically, for us. So yeah, that's what we celebrated that night. And then basically, what happened is that the government gives you a year to make your first entry as an overseas applicant. So we chose June 2024. So we waited for about 6 months, and then we said, okay, let's go, let's do it. So to activate our residency, and within that year, window that they gave us. So and landing into Sydney Airport at the end of June 2024 was pretty surreal. I mean, we're like, no more visas, no more like tourism visa or whatever visas, just everything was linked to our passport. We went down there, and we even I had to ask to an officer, because everything is like e-gates now. So you land, and you don't talk to anybody. I mean, if you're from certain countries and certain passports, still you have to go through a manual inspection. But in our case, we're both Canadian citizens, so we used the e-gates, and then were the gates open. I had to ask somebody, an officer, immigration officer, hey, sorry, we're just entering first time as PRs. Is there anything that you should check or ask, or need to stamp something on our passport? I don't know, something, right? So naive and like, oh no, just welcome, welcome to Australia. It's good. It's all digitized, so it's all linked to your passport. So we're like, okay, bye. And when we got to the arrival hall, that we got pretty emotional, and we just hugged each other. We have a ritual all the time. Every time that we land into Sydney Airport, we still do it now that we live here. We go to a cafe there at the arrival hall, and we just sit there with that cafe. I know it's a little more expensive than what we have here down the road, but whatever. It's a nice ritual to have. So. But look, what we did. We spent about a couple of weeks in Australia. So we were 1 week in Sydney, and you can have some photos here of our trip, and a week in Perth. So we went to Perth to say hi to my relatives, cousins, some friends that I have there. We had dinners, and we laughed, and they congratulated us for that achievement. I mean, Perth sunsets are the best. Just the best. Maybe Hawaii as well, but they're amazing. So, and then we went back to Montreal. In Montreal, then it turned into a frenzy. So things at work, where I was working, weren't really great, and so we just communicated, and we just felt like we could leave at the end of the year or before the end of the year 2024, and that's what we did. We identified November 2024, right before the holidays, leading into summer, and just leaving the Canadian winter behind us for good. And that's what we did. But it was a lot of stress. I was about to leave a job that I had for almost 14 years at that time. I had a lot of seniority. I was, working, had a high degree of independence at work. I was traveling a lot. So instead of quitting, I asked my employer to approve an 8 month sabbatical leave. In some countries, it's called unpaid leave or special leave. In the policy that we had, it was called sabbatical, and that's what I did, and was approved. And it took a while, like over a month, but eventually they approved it. It was from December 20, first week of December 2024 to August 2025. That's what I did. So Pablo also left his job in Montreal. We said goodbye to everybody. We gave away clothes and furniture. We sold everything that we could sell. It was pretty emotional. The last night in Montreal, we were just sleeping on the floor, and it was the end of November. Was already below zero, the temperature, and we were just there, no sleep whatsoever. We just the house was empty. There was nothing, maybe just a chair that we didn't give away just for practicality, and that's all. So that was pretty emotional, I have to say. And but look, we sold everything, and and just felt a little bit empty when we left. We had a couple of friends who came to say goodbye the last day. We had 8 suitcases, 4 each. And we just left the keys behind, and we took an Uber to the airport. 20 minutes we were there, and that's it. We flew, still remember, we flew United Airlines via San Francisco, where Air Canada to San Francisco, and then 1 night in San Francisco, and moving those 8 suitcases, guys. Crazy. I would never do that again. And we landed in November, on the 26th of November 2024, to settle in Sydney permanently. That was fantastic. feeling. Let me ask, if you've ever made a big move yourself, what was the hardest part for you of that process? Just tell me in the comments so we can have a conversation there. Um, then I think I thinking retrospective, and when I was writing down the script for this video, I if you're approaching 40, so if you're in that 38, 39, almost 40 years old, I think there are three rules that you should follow, and that's what I did. Okay, so this is again my experience, and it could be of help for you. So, rule number one is to find a great migration agent. Um, do your research, don't get scammed, but a good agent changes everything. Again, I'm happy to point you to the right direction. Just leave me a comment below. This is not a paid endorsement or anything. It's just that they worked perfectly for me. They were amazing, and really think that they can help you. Um, I, you can do it yourself, but then you don't. Some things are so complicated and naughty, and that you may interpret the wrong way, that I highly suggest, because then you don't have a second chance. Because then you just get in, beyond the 40 years mark. Then becomes harder, you get less points. So again, do your research, and maybe that's going to save you. The second rule or advice that I can give you is to get skilled. Australia really, really loves and wants people who can contribute to the economy. So check the occupation list. If your role isn't there, or if whatever you do, it's not in there, or if you're not skilled at all, just want to start over and acquire a new skill, find out what's in demand and start building on that right now. Do a course, start working on that domain anywhere you can. It's going to save you a lot of trouble. And the third rule, I think it's most important, is don't wait. Don't wait, because past 45, a skill PR is impossible. So there is a age cutoff limit, and that's 45. And from 40 to 45, because when I applied, I was 39, so I was able to get 25 points. Beyond 40, so 40 to 45, is less points, I think. And beyond 45, unfortunately, you're too old to apply for these kind of visas. The only way, I think, is partner visa, which I don't know anything about. But yeah, look, start your documents, your CV, references, recognize early what's missing. Rules and laws, they change constantly. It could be a shutdown again. It could be anything, right? So you just want to be ready for the moment, for the window to open for you, and just do it. And then just a little tip for couples. Communication is everything, is essential. Just talk to each other. If you want to do something, you want to do it, you identify that you want to come here because you've been here a couple of times and love it, and you think that you could be happier, or you could be better off, or you just want to do the experience, just tell your partner before we do everything. Because I heard stories of people like doing it without telling the partner, and then it's like, oh, you have to sign here, we're going to Australia. It's like, no, I'm not going. And so everything on the table, be truthful and clear, and communicate in a manner that it's worth the relationship. When I met Pablo over 15 years ago, by now, I was living in Australia, And when we continued our relationship, and then we both, well, he moved to Canada with me at the end of 2010, 2011 actually. I was like, you look, I have a dream. I want to live in Australia. If at some point it's going to happen, will you be there for me? And he said, yes, I want to do it. And then we eventually traveled together a couple of, 3 times actually to Australia to visit. We've been to every capital cities by now. Beautiful country, and he loves it. He's happy. He's working. Full time. We're making new friends. So yeah, that's really important. So yeah, we got to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching the video up until now. If you have any questions, please put it down below. If you want to know more about the experience, you have some specific questions or anything that you want to know about the process, please write the comments down below. I'll be happy to respond to every query that you have, and then I'll be working on some other videos. Could be Wildlife Canada or my comfortable life in Canada for this challenge, and how to make friends in your 40s in a foreign country, or also it could be how to yeah, get a job with no contacts. So I can do that for you. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.